move further.
Okay.
So, namaste everyone. Today is our 10th session in the series of the book Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichaya, English translation. And we had last week Kuhu actually leading us through the session. We have been studying Jeevan Ka Swaroop, the part of the chapter. And we had some good discussions uh, at the end of it, and even in the earlier sessions before that. So I think one of the thing that my attention went to is that each one of us actually is uh, has got impacted by this darshan, the way that we have actually listened to it, and when we actually have gone back to our lives, or uh, we have tried to take that impression with us and tried to implement some of that understanding into our context. And that is what probably is the beauty of this. This is what makes the darshan alive. And in all our efforts, what really happens in the process is that we make the bridge for others also for this understanding, right? So that is what we understood from Kuhu when she talked about her initiative of Kava, right? Where she is actually working on building a space uh, for living, understanding, and meeting, right? So that was very heartening to learn, right? For We have been studying Jivan, right? So we have understood so far that Jivan is proposed in this darshan as a constitutionally complete atom, right? Which is distinct from the body, and it has the five parts: Atma, Buddhi, Chit, Vritti, and Man, right? And we know that it is in the form of an atom, and it is subtle, and mm, body is gross, and Jivan is the one that drives the body, right? And it is through Man that the Jivan actually interacts with the body. And the five parts of Jivan, Man, Vritti, Chitta, Buddhi, and Atma, are in their order of subtleness, right? So Vritti is more subtle than Man, Chit is more subtle than Vritti, and Buddhi is more subtle than uh, Chit, and Atma is the most subtle. So, and we also understood in this part is that the one that is more subtle manifests its powers through the next, right? So, Man manifests through body, Vritti manifests through Man, right? And so on and so forth. So we see that there is, and we also see that um, the state of one part of Jivan gets evaluated in its more subtle aspect, like that Man gets evaluated in Vritti, Vritti gets evaluated in Chit, Chit gets evaluated in Buddhi, and Buddhi gets evaluated in Atma. So if we In another words, we can actually say that for every part of Jivan, the sthiti actually gets complete in its previous part, and the gati actually gets completed uh, in the next part. Like man's sthiti happens in vritti, and man's gati happens in with the body. So eventually, we can actually say Atma's gati is with buddhi, buddhi's gati is with Chit's gati is with vritti, and vritti's gati is with man, and man's gati is with uh, body. And that is how basically the understanding or the anubhav that comes into Atma gets manifested through body, right? And then it comes through in human beings' behavior, right? And which we say that one's behavior becomes realization based, anubhav mulak ho jata, right? So that is the basic presentation of Jivan, or the presentation of Jivan, that one's conduct thereby becomes definitive. Once the realization happens in Atma, then its manifestation through body in behavior actually becomes regulated. And that becomes the basis of self-regulation. And self-regulation becomes the basis of a humane conduct, right? And the humane conduct then becomes the basis for humane culture, humane civilization, and then after that, even humane constitution, right? And the humane systems. So that is that gives the vision that this darshan actually gives, that how can actually this whole world actually uh, be in a way that is in a self-regulated way, right? And then it gives the vision of family-based self-organized system, right? Where the family is considered as the unit, the first unit of uh, of this orderliness, right? And then we basically extend that or that thing to the next levels, in 10 levels that it has been proposed, right? So if we look at it, what we are having now versus what is being proposed over here is, right now we are having two major institutions that, or two major seats of power, which are actually trying to give the guidance and control from outside, right? As a rule, right? One is the state and the second is the religion. The religion is giving the controlling the aspects about the values and ethics and so on and so forth, while the state is actually giving the instructions with respect to the systems that are actually working. And sometimes actually we see that they are crossing the boundaries, right? So what is over here being proposed is that family is the unit in which the state and religion is being recognized here as dharma, right? Which is one's innateness, right? And then basically we say that these things, these two things, state and religion, do not need to be external entities which provide controllers from outside. Instead, family can be the unit for self-governance, right? And we can actually extend that to the world level itself. So that is really the vision of this darshan, and the beginning point of this darshan's imbibing into oneself is to first basically listen to it as an alternative, not in the continuation of what we have been actually mm, what we have been actually living as, but as an alternative to that. So then first stage is the listening, and then we actually deliberate over it. We actually let that thought, mull over that thought to actually reach the conclusions that, okay, is this what it is? Is this, if I consider this, where does it stop? Does it actually, we reach any dead end in my thought itself, right? And we practice that to some extent, to the extent that is in our context, to see whether it is basically getting validated in our behavior also. And once we actually get assured of that, we basically make conclusion that, okay, this is what it is, and this is how I would like to lead my life, right? And once that actually becomes our conclusion and decision, then we take steps for making that as part of our life. And in this process, we actually start understanding things uh, beyond the level of logic and reason, at the intuitive level, right? Which we say is the level of sakshatkar and both, right? Which is something beyond the logic, right? And the purpose, as in the last session we had discussed, the purpose of logic is to make us touch that level of understanding, which is not just logic, right? Which is about acceptance. So that is the uh, rather an overview of what the thing that we are trying to understand and our journey towards it yet. So I would like to now invite Kuhu to read us the uh, next session. So welcome, Kuhu.
Thank you, Bhaiya. That was very well summarized. I think you covered the entire book in just a few minutes. So thank you for that. So I stopped at page 116 last time, and basically what we had talked about, or what Babaji had said in the previous pages, was that he was basically emphasizing on the importance of understanding, on the importance of justice and humane conduct for personal growth as well as for growth in society, for harmony in society. And he mentions that prioritizing qualities like confidence and respect and social responsibility will actually empower us to become independent or autonomous, and that is what will contribute towards bringing a change or bringing positivity in families and the society. And then he talks about how justice is the bare minimum, the most essential element for creating a civilized society where people find mutual satisfaction. And this basically involves understanding what values are. So, justice and values, understanding values is where justice will be directly translated, and that is how we will find satisfaction and fulfillment in our relationships. And this, he suggests, is will happen through education, because education will help create a deeper understanding within people about relationships and their role in society and their role in within the existence as a whole. And through education, like we'll be able to teach principles like truth and justice again and fairness, and this is what will create an entire generation or an entire society of self-fulfilled, of honest, of caring and just human beings. So this is what we had covered in the last few pages. And now, reading forward, starting from page number 118, we will have to impart the understanding for every person to become evidence of living with justice. We will have to impart study of sentience along with science for this. Unless we understand sentience, we cannot grasp the understanding of existence. And if we don't understand existence, then how will we understand its orderliness? The one who understands existence is Jeevan, which is a unit of the sentience. Therefore, the study of Jeevan has to be incorporated in education. Psychology should incorporate the sanskar aspect, which is the understanding. The awakened consciousness should be recognized. Awakened consciousness of humans has the grandeur of both cognitive and sensory ability. Philosophy should be taught with a realized human as its evidence. On doing so, the way of humaneness will prevail, and not materialism or spiritualism. Therefore, humans can become wise, and existence is always available for understanding. My realization about evidencing is that I evidence upon helping others understand, learn, and do as I have understood, learned, and done. Evidence is necessary in all these three aspects, and there isn't a fourth aspect of it. It is all right if our learning and doing falls short, but it is necessary for our understanding to be complete. Thus far, we have accomplished a great deal in learning and doing, but we are nowhere with respect to understanding. At present, learning and doing are considered to be the most valuable, but this could get us neither resolution nor relief, and we kept getting stuck somewhere or the other. Therefore, now the need has arisen for humans to study the entire existence and gain self confidence. It becomes natural for humans to evidence understanding after study and practice. The study of humans was left behind in the pursuit of idealism and materialism. In idealism, gods and goddesses and are considered to be above all, and humans got left behind. They sacrificed study of humans in an attempt to understand gods, goddesses, and God. Materialism too left humans aside, brought machines to the fore by experimentation method, and made machines the basis of evidence. While scriptures, books, and literature became the evidence in idealism, the machine became the evidence in materialism. In this way, humans got undervalued, and being trapped in delusion, they ended up only furthering that delusion. Thus, being trapped in delusion led to humans suffering, becoming frustrated, and harassed. Now, how will the deliverance of humans come about? All seats of power have been giving such assurances, but there is no evidence of deliverance. How long can it go on like this? So now here he's talking about again how number one, we need to educate ourselves on what it really means to be fair in life and or to basically do justice. And to do that, we need to teach about consciousness along with science, which is what we are generally teaching in schools. And understanding consciousness is important because it is the key to understanding the entire existence. So only if you understand consciousness, you can understand what the existence is. And the Jivan is what can understand existence. So it is important to understand what the Jivan is as well. And this entire study is missing from the current curriculum, from the current education system. And so, because of that, of course, now we see that understanding is incomplete within humans, which is why we can't be just and we're not being able to sort of move towards a wiser path. Then he goes on and talks about how psychology should focus on understanding and focus on understanding on our behavior as well, and the importance of being aware of ourselves, basically. Because we, as humans, we have the ability to think and feel, and this is what makes us different to animals or to other states in nature. And that is why he feels that it's important to include the understanding of ourselves, our behaviors, and just about uh, um, our existence. And then he goes on to talk about philosophy as well, how philosophy should use real life examples as evidence to teach wisdom or to teach spirituality instead of focusing on beliefs or material things. And this is how people will eventually sort of gain the evidence for it and have the conviction to sort of study and work towards it. And this, of course, has been ignored so far. And the reason behind it, he says, is idealism and materialism. Because what has happened is that idealism has put gods above humans, and materialism has put machines above humans. And this has led us to believe that that we're nothing. We have belittled ourselves, and we have not really understood our significance and our role and purpose in society, in existence, because idealism and materialism have overpowered these things over us. And that's why he says that now it's important to understand human beings. Now it's important to understand consciousness rather than understanding gods and machines, because that has not gotten us anywhere. And this is the way towards leading a more satisfying or a more meaningful or purposeful life. So now he's saying that in the form of the alternative, understanding is the basic source of deliverance of humans. The highest authority for this is the education system. Education should include the study of consciousness along with the study of science. How will the study of coexistence happen without the study of consciousness? These two aspects have remained untouched in educational institutions, content, and pedagogy. Secondly, the awakened consciousness is understood, evidenced, and its need becomes clear for study of humans in psychology. Therefore, the sanskar aspect should be incorporated in psychological studies. Thirdly, philosophical studies should be based on evidence. Our belief until now has been that the one who can repeat what they have read has become learned. However, one doesn't become learned that way really. A learned person is the embodiment of understanding. Learning is natural and of realities in existence. One doesn't become learned without understanding the realities of coexistence, Jeevan, and humane conduct. As these aspects are understood, the thought process develops, which leads to a plan and development of a program, and consequently, one is evidenced. Unless we understand, how will our thought process develop? In the absence of understanding, one way of thinking is pursuit of comfort and accumulation. And the other way of thinking is idealism, which is about renunciation, non accumulation, detachment, devotion. Millions have devoted themselves to idealism and demonstrated their courage, patience, and dedication. Still, an outline of an undivided society could not be seen emerging from either of these ideologies. Humans have been working tirelessly, but without a universal human goal or direction. My endeavor was only for finding answers to my questions. I had no goals such as achieving heaven, money, or material accumulation. I had only one resolve, that if I have a doubt, then I will inevitably find the answer. I will now explain the meaning of yog and sayog. The meaning of yog is coming together. For example, if we are going somewhere and we come across a rock or another person, that's called yog. Sayog means to come together for completeness. Completeness means humans living in orderliness. The ultimate completeness means humans becoming authentic. Humans inherently want to live in orderliness and become authentic. But when that want is not fulfilled, they helplessly get molded according to tradition. Yoga and Sayog are always there in existence. There have been many efforts in history for completeness, which is their becoming successful in another matter. Humans have made many sacrifices for achieving completeness. Sacrifices eventually lead to something. Now, again, he's saying here in this page that to truly help people, we need to focus on understanding that education needs to not just teach science, but about consciousness. Psychology should focus on including values. Philosophy should be based on evidence and understanding. All of this understanding is what will help us think better, and it is what will help us make progress. Without understanding, of course, we're stuck chasing comfort or seeking idealism, and that hasn't really gotten us anywhere. That hasn't really made society any better. So this is what I think he's highlighting in this paragraph. And then he goes on and talks about yog and sayog. So he says that yog means coming together, and sayog is when things are coming together to create or for completeness. And he says that Sayog is crucial for creating harmony. It is crucial for creating unity. And it's not just about meeting like minded people, it's about working together, together towards some sort of resolution, towards order, towards harmony or a united society. And that is what Sayog is. It's about genuine collaboration for the greater good. It's about authenticity, it's about genuinity. And that is what he explains as Sayog. And this is something that I usually also, get confused about as well, because how do we know what is yog? How do we know what is sayog? Like, how do you know if you're really meeting someone towards, because there's a longer journey there, because there's a deeper purpose there? But it turns out that eventually you do see these things sort of fall in place, because there is that, again, not just the way your thoughts are matching or not just the way your conversations are happening, but a greater or a deeper sense of satisfaction there, or a deeper sense of understanding, or just a sense of you know what? I think we might just be in the same direction of where we want to go or what we want to achieve. And at some superficial level, I have seen or like have experienced moments of sayog in life, of course, being together with people of this community as well. And this is all, again, like he highlights and like he points out, this is all for the greater good. This is all for completeness. It's because we want to go there. It's because we are aiming towards that direction. And that is what sayog is. And then if we read forward, um, in the process of breaking something, success is achieved with the last strike. But if prior strikes were not made, then the last strike wouldn't have become successful. Success includes the contribution of all strikes. The success that I got also has the contribution of all previous efforts. Therefore, I have accepted that this event is a result of the entire humankind's contribution. The big benefit from this is that I didn't become arrogant with this success. Also, very few people who present themselves with arrogance have come to me. Whatever arrogance they may have come with, after a few steps, their arrogance subsided. Everyone I met me in a civilized, simple, and natural manner. However, this doesn't mean every person who met me accepted what I had to say. Many people don't accept it, but I respect them as well. It is not their fault. They have been laden with burden of tradition. Therefore, I am happy whether someone accepts or not. Every human has the seed of righteousness. The sayog has to happen. When it will flourish and flower, we cannot say. Every human wants the good to happen. I want to bring the possibilities of its realization within reach. Sayog is when humans come together for resolution, for orderliness, and for undivided society. Sayog is not just a meeting of like minded people. Two thieves or two robbers don't meet for resolution and orderliness. Therefore, that is not called Sayog. As I became capable of living with justice, my family itself became the practice ground of my authenticity. As one starts living with justice, they start gaining the acceptance of their family. After living with justice in my family, I started getting recognized for my righteousness among other close families too. After this, living with justice became my intrinsic nature, and I became capable of conveying my righteous identity to visitors as well. Every human has an innate desire for meaningfulness and success. Our understanding is the source of this noble desire. We can never ignore this source. Good is acceptable to everyone. All humans want good to happen, and we're all indeed waiting for it. As we wait, the matter of relationships comes up. Understanding relationships is to know their inherent purpose and values. This itself is the study. Once the purpose of relationships is understood, then one naturally becomes dedicated and subsequently achieves proficiency. Proficiency invariably bears fruit. This is a very simple part to success. Comprehensive resolution is the underlying basis in all the relationships. So, when I had first read this paragraph about Babaji talking about how his success was achieved, that he was possibly the last strike, that there were many, many strikes before him, I think that is probably when I really understood the importance, or the way he has acknowledged or has presented gratitude to everyone before him, because we usually just see the grand finale, or the last person to be the know all and the be all of everything, but we forget what comes before. We forget what precedes it. And this is, I think, very important for us as well, as to see in our journeys how far we've come with all the sayog, with all the people we've met, with all the opportunities we've got. It's all because of the people around us, um, who, have brought us to this point, who have added to our understanding, to our knowledge, to our values. And I think he's very beautifully put it, especially the way he also expresses gratitude towards the people in his life who who have brought him so far, or the people who he met in his journey, even after enlightenment. How he says that it wasn't hard for him to accept them just because they couldn't accept him, and that just sort of shows how easy, or how like forgiving gratitude must be. And that is what he says here, that the purpose of relationships is to basically uh, uh, share the sort of values and the understanding, and basically experience what you can. And he's saying that the success that we have, it's not just from again the final result, it's from all the steps, all the people who have come in. And everyone wants the right thing inherently. No one really wishes for bad. No one really thinks or wants to do or have bad things in life. And that's why everyone wants what is right. And the goal is basically to make that happen through collaboration, through understanding, through mutual relationships, through mutual fulfillment. And that is where the people around you, they come into play. And then, of course, he also sort of gives his own experience, or sort of presents himself as an evidence that the more justice he presented, or the more fairly he lived in his family, the more respect he earned, the more love he earned. And that is what he points out to be that is the key to living a successful life. That is what makes a meaningful life, which is understanding relationships, understanding value, having gratitude towards them, and collaborating towards the greater good. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We all want to do right. We all want to be right. And um, yeah, so yeah, moving on. The purpose of relationships is comprehensive resolution. That is, all relationships are meant for resolution and happiness. It is only in the light of resolution that we love, become grateful, make friends, trust, become social in behavior, and experience happiness. Values are care, guidance, trust, affection, gratitude, glory, love, reverence, and respect. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of any help that we may have received for our comprehensive resolution. With gratitude, other values also start getting expressed. After gratitude, the values of affection, love, and trust are expressed. You will not find a person who has never received any help in some form or the other. It is with everyone's help that a human grows up, becomes autonomous, and is evidenced. All the relationships, which are the seven relationships, have their continuity once values are realized in them. The relationship where values are not realized don't have continuity. Even in the regular course, we meet nicely with those with whom we identify a relationship. Traditionally, we recognize our relationships based on power, money, intelligence, or age, while in reality, our relationships are meant first for evidencing comprehensive resolution, second for nurturing, third for protection, fourth for usefulness and complementariness, fifth for right use, and sixth for purposefulness. Authenticity is the highest purpose in the relationships. Everyone becomes satisfied on the basis of authenticity. Values emanate naturally from Jivan. For example, when you and I meet, trust develops owing to a natural flow of values. Hence, we become capable of recognizing values in our relationships, doing their evaluation, and achieving mutual satisfaction. What is the big benefit from this? Thus far, we recognized relationships based on fear and temptation. Now, in its place, we have values, evaluation, resolution, and prosperity. Fear and temptation are not values, so their evaluation has no meaning. Fear and temptations are two sides of the same coin. Their use could bring some temporary order, but the underlying cause remains as it is. Even in the judicial courts, justice could not truly be delivered because it cannot be based on fear and temptation. For centuries, humans have arrived at compromises with each other based on fear and temptation, but they couldn't bring about any orderliness in this way. We can agree that fear and temptation are not values, nor could they be evaluated in the relationships. Humans haven't understood values at all so far. If they understood, then we would see values being expressed, evidenced, evaluated, and justice occurring naturally. The judicial courts pass judgments, they don't do justice. One side consents to these judgments out of fear, while the other consents out of temptation. So now I think he said something very interesting here that we usually know of, but we don't really think too much over it, which is that the purpose of relationships is to solve problems and to find happiness. So when we work together to solve things, that is when we feel gratitude and friendship and trust and happiness and all those things. And gratitude is basically when we recognize that the help that we get to solve our problems, it is the first step towards opening up to all the values that are to be felt, which again then leads to showing other values as well, like love and trust and affection. And it's quite interesting that he says it. He says that gratitude is the first or the most initial value as well, because usually in different places I've heard that no, it starts from enlighten in different philosophies or different schools of thoughts, and some other places they also say that gratitude is the last thing, like after you've achieved a bunch of things, that is when gratitude comes in. But here he's saying the complete opposite, because that is what opens up the way towards acknowledgement and acceptance, and that is how you move forward towards feeling everything, all the other values that are present in human relationships. And this was quite interesting to me when I first read about this. So he says that we usually judge our relationships based on power, on money, or on age. But really, it's all about, again, problem solving, about taking care of each other, about protecting each other and being useful to each other, finding the purpose of the relationship, doing what is right. And again, he says that authenticity is the highest purpose in this relationship. Being genuine is important. When the relationships are real, that is when everyone feels happy. You can't force this. This is not something that can be faked. It has to be authentic, it has to be genuine. And that is when the values will flow naturally from the Jeevan itself. And again, then he goes on to say why recognizing and understanding the values in relationship has its benefits, because historically speaking, we have been using fear and temptation as tools to sort of compromise within the relationships, and we see that that hasn't really brought any justice, or that hasn't really done any good in society. And so we see that these aren't values. In fact, they're not even good tools for using in relationships. And what that basically says about us is that we then haven't understood how important values are. We haven't really understood what values even are, because if we did, he says that if we did, then we would be practicing them. We would be, expressing them and living them, which is but natural. Like, it's so simple that it's values that are what carries relationships forward. And we say that we know them, but we don't, because we can clearly see that that is not the case in our lives or in society at large. Um, so yeah, moving on. Mutual satisfaction was never achieved there, nor can it be achieved. We have been totally incapable in achieving justice. In spite of this, we make claims of development. It is for you to decide what the meaning of such development is. Every human wants to become free from fear and temptation, which is natural. Living without fear and temptation is good, both for humans and their natural surroundings. In this way, relationships are on the basis of purpose. The purpose is resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence. The process for this is living in orderliness. Living in orderliness means participation in all five dimensions. The five dimensions are education and sanskar, justice and security, health and discipline, production and work, exchange and reserve. In this way, we become participants in universal orderliness through living orderly in a family and participating in the five dimensions. This becomes a continuous source of joy, well being, and indomitable courage for humans. Dharma is the step after justice. Dharma means both of realization evidence in buddhi, that is resolution. Resolution is the dharma of humans. Living in orderliness is the dharma of humans, which is comprehensive resolution. When humans live in disorder, they become trapped in problems, and while living in orderliness, they remain resolved. Humans don't want to be trapped in problems, they want to be resolved. Resolution is equal to happiness. Human dharma is happiness. Problem is equal to suffering. Humans don't want suffering. Resolution is not attained on the basis of fear and temptation, while the whole world is bent on fighting resolution that way. Even today, we educate and train for building systems based on fear and temptation, but orderliness cannot come about from these. The moment anything is built based on fear and temptation somewhere, the program of its disintegration starts from the same moment. Orderliness at any level, family, industry, governance, or state, shall come about only based on values and evaluation. Orderliness is where humans could exhibit their authenticity, fulfill justice, and participate. Education, sanskar system, instills the maxim of understanding in every family, individual, and child. It can also be called the way of dissemination understanding. As mentioned earlier, first is philosophy, which is darshan. After philosophy is ideology, which is vad. After ideology is treatise, which is shastra. And after treatise are the plans, which is yojana. One of the plans is Jeevan Vidya plan, whereby there is a scope for family to attain humane consciousness. With this understanding, one can live in orderliness in family. So now again, he's saying that even though we think that we are developing, even though we claim that we are moving towards development, we haven't really been able to make everyone happy, or we haven't really been fair to everyone. And he believes that everyone wants to live without fear or temptation, which is actually a good thing for for the environment, for people, and that is what is basically the purpose of the relationships. And again, the relationship should be about solving problems. It should be about being successful, feeling safe, and living peacefully. And to do that, he says, we need to focus on the five dimensions, which are education and sanskar, justice and security, health and discipline, production and work, and exchange and reserve. And through these dimensions, once we start understanding them, we start living with them, start experiencing them, and sort of translating this into our life. That is when um, these dimensions will help us live in an orderly way within our family, within the society. And basically, to put it simply, he's saying that we when we live orderly in an orderly way, we focus on solving problems, which brings us happiness. And he believes that problem solving is what humans should do. That is what relationships are for, and that is what will help us. And living orderly through the five dimensions is what will help us do that. Then he goes on to speak about the education system or sanskar, which is uh, basically spreading the knowledge of understanding. So sanskar is when everyone in the family, including the children, they learn about or know about the importance of understanding. That is sanskar, because again, like we talked about earlier, understanding is what will bring peace and justice and happiness and satisfaction. And understanding just science is not enough. We need to understand consciousness with it. We need to understand the existence. We need to understand Jeevan with it. And that is what sanskar is, to sort of understand, realize, and know the importance of understanding. And then for this, he has presented the format, which is in four steps, which is darshan, vad, and shastra, which is here called the philosophy, which is then followed by the ideology, followed by the teachings, which is what comes into, practically into our lives, and finally the plans. And one of the plans here that he has given is the Jeevan Vidya plan, which is what will help families achieve a humane way of thinking, a humane way of living. And of course, if one family adopts this, if one family understands this, this will again go out into the society. This is how communities will live in an orderly way with humane thinking. And basically, this is what will bring about change in society towards a wise towards an harmonious, towards an orderly, a just society, where we are all on the path of becoming wise. So I think that's all I had prepared for today for my presentation. I tried to sort of juice out the gist of what Babaji has written in these few pages. And I hope that I could I was able to explain some of it as well. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kuhu. This was very nicely presented. And one of the things that really came out strongly in your presentation was that the importance of relationships, right? So we actually, if you look at the idealism, the focus is on the God or the absolute reality. Uh, and somewhere the human is getting uh, uh, missed out in that. And if we look at the materialism, the focus is on the material things. So it is outward looking, but it is somewhere missing out on the self and the relationships that is. So Madhya's darshan is actually looking at, one is that connection with the absolute and also connecting with the material world also, right? An important thing is becomes the self, how self connects with other self. That is the relationship. So everyone who comes in touch with Jivan Vidya actually starts seeing that what are the things that are permanent in their life, what are the constants in their life, right? So probably it comes later when we really come to understand satta and sampriktata. But the first thing that really our attention goes is that our relationships, they are the constants of our life, that they actually are. And we realize that, okay, our parents, our wife, our children, they are the constants of our life. This is the constant that we will be seeing as far as that we can see, right? And then we start actually seeing that what does it mean to actually have the relationship, and what does the values, what are the values in there. And that is where the idea of justice actually starts revealing to us, right? That, okay, that what does it mean to be mutually fulfilled in the relationships? And then Vidya starts making sense uh, to us, and then we start looking at other dimensions of it. So, thank you so much, Kuhu. It was a very nice rendering of this book. You made it alive. And so I'll open this floor for now question answers for all the people who are there, or anything that you would like to. So, anyone who would like to say anything? Okay, looks like very silent day today. Maybe all of us are enlightened already, which is not a bad thing, if you ask me. So, very nice. So, I think we are making some very good progress here, and in this reading of the book, it is actually always a new thing when we read it. It gets an opportunity to actually reflect on the things all over again from the first principles, right? So sometimes what happens is that we have read something, and then we start taking it for granted. And the words actually, the oft repeated words, they become cliches, right? And but then we sometime we again come back and uh, look at the things afresh with new eyes, and see that there is actually the joy and the beauty of this thing is still the same. It is the same thing that had appealed to us in the first time in the right, and then we actually connect with it, and get rejuvenated, and connect with our resolve, with our own being, right? Which is the most important thing, to be honest with ourselves and to be wise, not just in words, but in deed. Yeah. So,
Uh,
it,
Rakesh, I would have a question, but for you actually, because
mhm,
maybe someone asked this question before. I wasn't there to attend all the sessions because I was traveling, but if not, then maybe you could answer. And my
mhm.
question is, what has this whole process of doing the translation, because you've done it now for quite some time, for many years, and put a lot of work and mind into it. So, how has this process been for you as a translator? Or how did you did you feel that it
Mhm.
made a difference in your understanding?
Yeah, I have actually tried to think about it, and what um, see, I think I started working on it even before Babaji asked me for it, and I basically just kept at it. Somewhere I felt that there is a need for it, and without really understanding the darshan, I just felt that it is something that is my calling. It has to be done. It has to be done. That kind of a thing. So I was actually keeping at it, and trying to do whatever that it basically um, would make sense to me, and trying to do. So one of the thing that actually happens in the process of translation is that you need to actually get into the shoes of the person who has originally written it. Yeah. So you need to actually think from the what would have been in the mind of Babaji when he was writing these things, right? And when we are reading the book, at that time, sometimes we gloss over the thing that, okay, maybe it is not making sense. We'll move on, and the next two lines we will see. But when you are translating, then it is becomes imperative that you actually confront it that, okay, I do not understand it. So somewhere, or you need to actually take the thing that the person who has written it doesn't know what he is writing, or you make uh, such a thing. So basically, it kind of forces you to actually go into a little deeper. Yeah. And also Babaji also said that, okay, तुम्हारा मन इससे ही भरेगा, right? It is something you will actually, uh, so he said, and that also kind of egged me on. I also needed something to make myself useful, right? Because everyone has a certain tendency and capabilities. And I mean, I somehow did not quite see myself as a public speaker or one who would conduct shivers and things like that. But he said that each one of us needs some way of expressing themselves, right? In the process of Adhyan, it is also necessary. Abhivyakti is also necessary, or the expression is also necessary. Otherwise, the thought becomes too heavy, right? You need a channel to express yourself, right? It's not possible that you basically just stay silent till you have understood. It doesn't work that way, right? So he said that you need a channel and you do this, and this is how it will happen. So I made whatever made sense to me, and I tried to basically seek out the collaboration and help, but it did not really work out to really have the team until we had Surendra Bhaiya, Sanjeev Bhaiya, and some to actually join for reviewing this thing. And there I actually realized that uh, uh, translation or the language is actually is a very uh, it's by nature involves more than one person, right? And the translation work is cannot be done by one person. It has to be done in a collaborative way. Collaboration actually becomes essential that way. And and then we actually started going through in some more detail, and in this process many people helped in various capacities. Like I was going to, for me, Sadhan Bhaiya has been the go-to person whenever I basically have any doubt with respect to the conceptual understanding of the things, because he has been for a long time been with Babaji and taken part uh, in the documentation or the publishing related work, right? To actually also we also looked at the previous versions of the uh, previous editions of the things where we felt that this is not quite making sense. Is this something which is something is was clearer in the our previous edition? Then we actually looked at that as well. We referred to the dialogues we had had with Babaji, right? And many of them you might have also heard and seen. So to understand some concept, to really come to the thing. The process of translation, I think we basically felt that it should not be just a literal translation in which we just say Hindi this word, English that word, and then put together, connect those things with some grammar, and that you are done. So that's not what we basically felt. We felt that we need to probably there is some value that needs to be brought, right? And there needs to be some value in that. We want, what is the value that we are bringing to the table, right? So we thought that we will actually translate as we have understood the meaning to be, okay, while keeping the reference as it is. So you're not changing the flow, still the same thing is there, but it is not a literal translation. It is the way we have understood. Now, it is also true that unless the person who is translating, his level of consciousness, his level of understanding is at the same level as the person who has originally written, it cannot reach, the translated product cannot be of the same quality. So that much is understood. Yes, we know that, right? But what we acknowledge is that it is an engineering approach. It is an engineering approach in the sense that we take something and improve upon it, right? So we see that it is a work in progress, and the whole thing we see is like a open source project, right? Uh, so one doesn't become an author by translating it. It is the author is the who the author is, but it is our effort to basically bridge it with English language, right? So if any further input comes, we only improve upon it, right? So that is where basically I see that. I think this has been a, very enriching experience, right? At times, there have been times when I feel that, okay, can I actually come out of it? Is this something that I'm carrying for so many years on my back? Uh, can I recuse myself? Can I say that, okay, I mean, enough, right? Shall I just say that? I have also deliberated on the thought that uh, is it actually throwing me into more words, while actually my intent was to move to the meaning from the word. Is it actually uh, mm, giving me into the sea of more words? I asked Babaji on this question, and he said, no, it's not that way, right? So when you actually deliberate over it, it helps you in your understanding, right? So in any case, whether in Hindi or in English, the meaning doesn't have any words there, right? So this is a process of manan only, where you are actually churning uh, the idea into your mind to arrive at uh, uh, the conclusive interpretation of what is being said, and then you articulate it, right, with complete cognizance of the thought that there may be something that you are still missing. Okay, so that's where it is, right? I think we have Surendra Bhaiya also here, and who can probably adds more about his experience of translation.
Yes, Rakesh Bhaiya, I was keenly listening to your explanation as Kuhu Bita also explained, and as he was reading, I was thinking of our discussion at every word and every line. You know, when we went through the translation process, and I do fully agree with you. My take on this translation process is
Mhm.
an overall process is that we go through the books in order of sort of depthness or depth, if I say. The least depth is when we read it, or in the, let's say, Adhan Sivir, or somebody explain it to us. That is the least depth to the words and meaning. My understanding of the whole process is. Second stage improves when you try to explain it to something. Then one has to pay even more attention. That is how I found that if you have to conduct a workshop or try to explain it to somebody else, then you suddenly find new meaning into the words and the whole booklet. And the third level of attention or depth is when we went through the process of translation alone. And then I found that yes, I still had to pay a little more attention to the words and understand the para or the words or the stanzas in little more depth before translating into English. And even more attention or more clarity became when we, as a team, as Rakesh Bhai was saying, that it's not just the process by one person. When we sort of reviewed the books like Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichaya and Manav Darshan, as we are doing now, the level of clarity I find in myself has improved much more. And that is what the takeaway is, that it has helped a lot in my understanding of the text or the meaning that Babaji has written. So, this is in summary, I would say. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Surendra. Kevin Bhai, and is this what anything specific that you were looking for?
No, that was very interesting, definitely.
Yeah, so I hope that you join this effort, and maybe basically for German, if at some point it basically makes sense to you, or see it, you cannot be with something unless it really connects with you, right? And we felt that in this in the review process of this, we have been more than 2 years now, right? And we actually always look forward to it. Yeah, if we are not joining, are not able to join a particular meeting, which is very rare, yeah, we it's something that we feel that yes, we are missing something. Yeah, so I have seen that. I mean, uh, Suren Bhaiya, when his son was getting married, he was actually uh, trying to come back the next week after basically the marriage was done. He was back into the review thing. Uh, so was Sanjeev Bhaiya. Their commitment of making this happen is phenomenal, right? So I think, I mean, uh, it there is there is something that we actually hold sacred in us, right? Which is something that we say that, okay, this is something pure and we don't want to adulterate in it. It actually connects with our being, right? So that is, and we actually, there are some, so one such project that we have taken that, okay, we may be able to be less than 100% in many other things of our life, right? But this is one thing that we want to do as our lifetime thing that we want to do and do it right as much as we can be, right? So, so that's where we basically see it to be, yeah. So somewhere it is like a promise that you have made to Babaji that, okay, yes, we will do this thing, right? And that's where it is. Yeah, very
Because also
long
I
answer.
see myself that if I just read the books, and at the moment I don't even have so much motivation to even read the books, but even when I read the books, then I read very fast, and half of it I'm missing. But I cannot just stick to one sentence and read one sentence and then go to the next one or so. When I read it just by myself, then I'm reading it very quickly somehow, because I want to go further. But as you said, if you present it to someone, or if you are doing translation or some other work with this book or this particular paragraph, then you are paying more detail to the actual meaning than otherwise. If you just read it by yourself, you can just skip some parts and overlook them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I mean, but having said yes to what you said, I also want to acknowledge uh, what you have been doing for past few years. I mean, if suppose there had been somebody in Germany and I had to actually follow the way you have been following, I don't see myself that I could have done that, right? I mean, you are attending online workshops, listening to the recordings, and reading the books, having, um, I mean, hats off, really. Mm. So I think, yeah, same I can say for you, Spencer and Ashley. Yeah. Yeah.
So what Kevin is saying, I want to add that it happens with most of us. Initially, when we are reading the book, we read normally very fast. But a stage comes when we feel that I need to explain it to someone, or I may have to take a shivir, or I have to do some translation work or something like that. So then automatically we start reading it a bit slow. We try to understand each and every sentence. So this automatically happens. Initially, yes, I agree with you. Our tendency is that let us read the book as early as possible. But I have seen in me that now I am reading the books very slow and try to understand each and every sentence. So this is happening with us. You are not alone, Kevin. We are also in the same boat.
Very good.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also nice to read a little bit faster and get like an overview and then focus on, like, I think there's probably a place for both. Like some
Yes.
focus and some like zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Yeah.
Right, indeed, that's true. And sometimes actually, if we read it too slow, then we miss the big picture. So it is probably a good idea to actually do both. Yeah. So Astel, we really looking forward to listening to you next week. Yeah. So s-
If
so
I
very
may,
Mhm.
Rakesh Bhaiya, if
Hanji,
I may
Hanji,
add, like Ganesh Bhaiya was saying and Kevin was saying,
ji.
what I have observed that initially we are very curious. What is it in the Madhyas Darshan? What is there in the books? So initially our purpose is not to understand or grasp the full meaning, just to know what is it in the book actually, or what is it the new information might be there that I have not yet come across, let's say, in any other book, because there are 13, 14 books. So first reading is just for information. It's only when we have gone through first or twice just to complete the information, when we know now there is actually nothing more, this is the what the width of the information is, then only I think we get into the depth. I think it's a very natural process, as Ganesh Bhai was saying. So it's okay, Kevin, if you feel like going through the all books, because that is how you get the whole idea what the whole range of Madhyas Darshan is. And once you are assured, yes, it covers everything under the sun, or in the whole existence, it has talked about everything. Now let me see what do I understand, what is it. So it's a very natural process, I find that.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice. So, is there anything else, or shall we close our today's session? Okay, तो आज हम लोग यहाँ रुकते हैं. Let's end today's session. Thank you very much, Kuhu, again, and hope all of us meet next week. Namaste.
Thank you everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste to
Namaste.
everybody.
Special thanks to Kuhu and everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.